Yeah.
Yeah.
So, where is it then?
I've got it here for you. Right
Oh my god. Oh. Well. What are you looking at? Go on, get out. Go play with your boyfriend or something.
You know what? Go buy yourself an ice cream.
Oh, that's nice, Dwayne. And get some chips with that. And get one each.
Loved seeing the progression from when these two were kids and then seeing where they are today and hearing those statistics about, the pipeline between children who have seen violence and those who end up in prison. So seeing that statistic at the beginning of this really helped put everything in perspective with this film and to see, what happened. I liked seeing that these two kids maintain their connection into adulthood and are helping each other. Lee and Carlie, have this connection from the start when they're children. You expect it to be a different outcome because in the beginning, Lee as a child seems to be the level-headed one, the grounded one, the one leading. And to see that he's the one that ends up in prison, it really, hits home that these children that see violence, they have that instilled in them and they have that life that they're used to, and that could potentially lead to them snowballing and eventually ending up in prison, even if they're these level-headed, grounded children to begin with. And yeah, I loved that we see Carlie helping him in the end, and seeing that flashback throughout was also really helpful. So yeah, I enjoyed this film. I love the concept behind it, and I think it really helps people to be aware of this statistic and what is happening to children.
I enjoyed the flashbacks of the storytelling and thought they were well done. And the child actors of Lee and Carlie were terrific, as well as the adult leads. I thought a good moment was a scene where Carlie visits Lee in prison and he needs her help. And he asks her, how did she become the success that she is? And I also like that the film ends on a hopeful note in that Carlie is going to support Lee and help him in his crisis.
Highlighting circumstance and chance through these two characters, and you see that through these flashbacks with their younger selves and where they end up and how they're reconnecting, and you see where their lives have led them and how drastically different they are. I think that's a really important through line, and I think there's a really hopeful turn at the end with Carlie coming back and helping. I think you really open up the future and the next step in the story with that open ending. I think the actors did a great job. I think you did a great job with pacing with these flashbacks. They didn't seem too abrupt, and I think they added a lot of good exposition for where we are now. And it comes together to be a really, thought-provoking, evocative piece.
Imprisonment and these relationships, and what we essentially see is the deep-rooted history between these two characters. We see them at a young age and to the present, and how they've really been there for each other through thick and thin. But when we are met with the present, we are met with someone who is well into their way into imprisonment, and one on the other side, it seems. The one doing investigating. So it's sort of that cop and prisoner dialogue that's happening, but it's layered, and it has this definition of, these two people know each other, and not only do they know each other, they know each other really well. They've known each other for a lifetime. And so it creates this, heartbreaking conflict because she doesn't want to see him on this other side. This is something that it seems like he's fought against his entire life, but life has a path, and sometimes, despite what we try to fight against and, what we fear, oftentimes the not are met with sometimes handling things that we've tried not to face. and face that reality. And there's a betrayal in that, right? She's disappointed in him for this. And, he has to acknowledge that and accept the consequences for his actions. But it really shows how desperate humanity has come when it comes to scarcity and trying to get by.
We see these two kids and how life was for them, their family dynamics. We see what they grew up to become. And you see how this abusive past has affected this young man all throughout his life. So for her to now be his lawyer and to be in this position, their history affects this moment where they meet. She is holding him accountable in this moment. There's conflict in this moment because he's a drug dealer. And her mother had this history of drug abuse that created all this conflict with her in her childhood that he was there for. And it creates this push and pull between the two that takes this and elevates it from just this normal lawyer and criminal relationship. And you get a sense that she really has to believe in him to be able to go to bat for him for this trial. And we can see that belief in him is starting to form over the arc of this conversation.
It had me invested. Like I was really rooting for bro, like rooting for them too as a relationship, and rooting for him specifically in the jail. Like I was like invested. I also like the narrative technique here of like cutting back and forth, revealing bits of the story, like setting the dominoes one by one as we go through, revealing the cards intentionally. I think that speaks to great writing and great directing and great storytelling.